technological service discussion is to review the evaluation intelligence backlog. So, something like brought this initial evaluation.
Everyone see what's going on over here.
Would it help if we got a second screen and try to make it as big as possible across two screens?
I can see the line.
Or you see the way back.
Guys, that's a bit of
Right, switch.
Is that okay? I can see it.
That might help.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so as I was saying, we put out an initial evaluation some time back, and then subsequent to that, in the last 3 or 4 weeks, there's been a fair amount of conversation between our team and folks at Apple about trying to address some of those, and others themselves also had a few discussions there. And also others that spent a fair amount of time looking at the quality of the Apple system and go through the APIs and evaluate that against our requirements. So this document basically just lists what we've done. Pull out our requirements and set in there. And the basic structure is the requirements broken by functional, and some other logical groupings. And then do some questions like partially comply, partially compliance, or does not comply with what we need for our requirements. And in addition, we also just have two levels of filtering and mark each of these as a particular core Apple system. Is this part of the web-facing, public-facing web interface use case, or is this requirement related to the use case where the terminology will be sitting at the editor and they're doing the terminology curation? Right, so just in trying to speed through this, do I need to either sort of go over your demo back on yesterday, do you need to go to the high level stuff again, or can we just go straight into the functional requirements?
Sure. Can I ask a question? The act of going through this, will it lead us, we already know the answer is going to lead us, I guess that's what I'm going to ask. We already know what the answer is going to be. I mean, honestly, the simple truth, I can tell you a piece of good news. I am very aware of what the requirements are because of the documents that I've seen here. I also am very aware of what Alberta's requirements are, what Canada's requirements are, and what the current projects that they're successfully doing in the US are. And they are supersets of what we need. So the truth is, I'll be absolutely astounded if we go through a detailed requirements analysis and find that this product won't satisfy them, because I can tell you it will. If you guys know that too, well, we can shorten it.
Well, one thing that I want to say about this is every going through it, just almost prioritize what we've been working on first, so that feeds everything into our looking back. And we know in terms of the milestone that we usually put out, is that present in the futures. The other thing is there are a few items here that maybe we need some clarification on, and it doesn't matter 100% with what we see in Apple. So I think what I'm wondering is to pick those up and have a discussion on those. Otherwise, I'm open to the other
just to comment on both, I agree with Eric. Apple, the tool that we're going to be using is no indication that it isn't really what we want to do. It's pick out the ones you've got some concerns about and discuss it. But the big one that I want to just get some final clarity on, it could be a 5-minute conversation on, is the web UI, which that's a request from yourself and from Randy, make sure we understand what the use cases are very clearly, and if we can just get those nailed down, we can rapidly move through this itself. The next step, once we've decided this, is when we come to messaging and the interoperability there and the stuff within that line, this is where how do you see the technology service working within it? It's going to play a big role. So So let's pick up the points you've got some concern about, and let's discuss it with especially the teams that have seen the system before, and around the requirements, do we really understand what they, are we fully understanding what they mean, and if not, do we adjust the requirements, or do we try to adjust our ones?
Okay, so on the help to the analysis to the rules, and you can switch to the reviewing the regulatory results.
Sorry, just before you go ahead. We did look at a lot of features yesterday, so I hope we don't spend so much time on that. And Derek said, this seems to be the system of choice, given all the discussions we had, the demos, and the knowledge that we have of the system. I guess we should spend a little bit more time on what does it take to have it used. And I know that there's although there are some that are treated as free, but I don't just want resources. But maybe we should need buy services from some people. So we should clearly get those things out. And by the time we end this session, we know how we're going to go for it. But some of the things that we already know, we shouldn't really be reading so much. For the interest of those probably who weren't here or didn't pay much attention yesterday, we could review the meeting facility again. Yeah.
That's actually one of the big points we want to look at is sports. It's a free and open source set of tools, but kind of
Not all of them are.
yeah.
Their engine is a free open source engine, and that's because Apple on the roots of the company are that engine was what the U.S. government paid to build the National Library of Medicine in the U.S. So the U.S. government pays to do something out of public funds, it becomes an open source asset. There are some specific tools around the curation of the terminology sets that are being built. Those tools are not open source, free open source, and that is they have ones like Red Hat for this server. They surround the code base, which is free, with products and services that don't functionality. And that's what we pay for. They also have got deep expertise in this area, not just in how to use their own tools, but deep expertise in how terminology services can be well leveraged. And one of the things I think we should probably discuss is what kind of strategy will let us best leverage that deep expertise to do technology transfer to build a competency here. Because I know that some of the Canadian provinces are very wedded to Apple. They did build the competency in-house. And I can tell you that it's been an expensive proposition for them. I'm looking to Jane because the province of Alberta is a bit of a case study. Now, Alberta's got all kinds of money, it's so rich because they got all the oil, but one of the ways they spent it was on Apple. I'm recommending instead of a strategy that we invite the experts from Apple and transfer. That means we have a requirement on our side to be able to receive that expertise and build it in-house. So that sort of puts onto our plate. If we didn't have them here, actually working with us, with who's us, and what kind of capabilities do we need to have in order to be able to see the expertise and the use of it.
I think just on that, there's also expertise also technical, code-based, or really how to manage the technology and how to use the technology to ensure that the technology themselves are maintained going forward. So it's like,
All right. You basically got two categories. One is you want to use this as a real-time terminology service that different applications will hit to validate that they got the right code values in the right spots in their messages. Is that an accurate understanding of what you want this terminology service to do?
One of the things.
All right. If that's the case, then yes, you need some technical expertise as to how to do interfacing to the terminology service in the real-time environment, whatever your real-time environment is. On the other side, you need to have some expertise in how do you actually curate terminologies. Terminologies are in a service because they don't hold still. You have to version them, you have to understand how they're interdependent, because one code system is reliant on another code system. If the value of this code system is X, then the subset of this other code system it applies, otherwise it is Y, a different subset of this other code system applies. Those are some of the curation considerations that you have to have someone, if you're going to run this in-house, in-country, they have to learn those terminology management skill sets. And you're going to have to decide who's going to receive those skills and how are you going to ramp them up. And you can start small and simple and grow to become more robust and complex. But anytime you have business rules with dependencies between more than one code system, as you do the validation, that also has corresponding implications for the programmers who are going to implement those business rules. So these are part of the interoperability layer that then is referencing the terminology service just for what the current state of those code systems are. So they're interdependent kinds of skills. End of lecture.
I think some of what's being talked about is true and will be an issue later. It's not clear to me that it's going to be an issue for this, what we're talking about. So again, we're trying to get focused on what's immediately in front of us. We have this unusual position of being able to control both sides of the equation this time. And usually the job of the terminology service is to reconcile systems once they become kind of more kind of annoying and disparate in the community, and that's where it really starts to shine and shows value. Just to remind people, when we first talked about the health information exchange, there wasn't a terminology service in the design, and I kind of pushed everyone to create stuff for it because it was going to be necessary long term. And I just want to remind people, what I was commenting on back then, which is you do need to have it in place, and it does need to be a part of the exchange pathway because it will ultimately be necessary. But if we're developing the medical record system side and we're developing the shared health record side, then the terminology services aren't really a fundamental part of the equation. You could make them, but I mean, we can define the terminologies on the setting side, and we know how we want it to be received as well. And so I think, again, the goal should be to make sure that there's a pathway to where it can be utilized and that we have some knowledge about how it's to be used, but we shouldn't perseverate too much over what it will be for the maternal and child use case. And I think there are other uses of the registry that have a value ratio independent of the primary use case, which you've identified before. And that might help give us a little more focus on what we talk about for the next 30 minutes or so.
So the one other point I'd like to make for near-term considerations is that you could consider that the terminology service is primarily used during configuration, where a system receives its drop-down list box values from terminology service, and you only have to update it every once in a while when you have a new release or a new version of the terminology are released. So it's not a case of having to do every validation at every message instance level. You're just doing it during configuration.
We're not going to get to that on first page. We have the opportunity to make simplify.
Yeah, I think let's understand that the scope, we want the simplest terminology service, I think. We're not talking about, message exchanges with, for example, RHEA and shared health records. It is a simple terminology service. In fact, most of the need was not really driven by the health information exchange, but other needs that are outside the scope of this project. For example, we have the clinical services department, which wants to standardize the way reporting is done. We have the Asian Rights Department needs to have standardized, disease codes, such things, which are not necessarily linked to directly related to this project. So what we need is a simple technology service. And now that we've decided and chosen one which we think has been applied elsewhere and has worked well, let's not go into so much detail of how complex it can be in the future. We'll fix that when we get there. But for now, let's concentrate on the simple, minimum scope for the technology service.
Okay, so, if what I'm hearing is we need to make a decision on what level of support we need to define the capacity of it, and we'll talk about that in the capacity session to maintain the terminology. So that's a separate discussion. The choice to use Apple is being made, particularly as a starting block, and we see work for ourselves. We haven't worked in the medical demo. Very quickly will help in that. So we know it can work. What I want to get a handle on right now is the discussion we had at lunch yesterday around the downloading of the terminologies using regulatory text. If we can put a pin on that and know exactly what that's about, and you're happy with where the interface and searching is going, then we can put that to bed and move on a little bit around it. But knowing that the next phase is what the question you have to answer is, well, how do we stand up in Rwanda? Where is it going to be hosted? Who's going to well, before you get to that, what are the full list of terminologies that are coming into it itself? How are those loaded, and who will then maintain those? So we put a ICD-10 in there, there's a read-only. How do we put the namespaces together, and what are we expecting to have in that?
It's actually one of the big issues that we want to ask and get answers. There's a platform will provide that as a service. Sorry, no, that's getting the terminologies in there is one of the big issues that I think we need to look at today. Basically, Apple told us they'll provide that as a service for everything. They provide certain terminology standard if you pay for it, of course, but they'll Jack from Apple told us that they, if you have your own requests and say, we have this specific code is only for use in Rwanda, which you might set it up. They'll set it up and contain the terminologies and update it as the new versions become available. So I guess the question is, should we use that service?
I recommend against having Apple on be our curator for us. They offer that as a service, which my sense of it is that we should make every use of that to help us get started, because they can, and they will be very good at that. But that we should have